Welcome, my fellow imperfect humans, to my podcast or my vlog, or I don't know, whatever this ends up being. It's called You Get To. Episode 1 of You Get To is called You Get to Just Start. I'm your host, Sarah Larkin. That's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm starting here right now where I am. I'm not starting at the perfect place. I don't know everything. I'm not starting in the office of my dreams with all of the perfect recording equipment. I'm not even starting knowing what I'm doing with the equipment that I have. And I'm not here with professional hair and makeup like I would like to be. But I am starting here as a divorced mother who is really trying to understand her place in the world, to try and figure out what it means to be a good human and how to get there and how to help people along the way. I start out here as a very imperfect human who doesn't always wash her face at night, who barely understands how to use a computer, literally. I have a smart mouth and definitely a stubborn streak. I have scars because I have a colorful history. But I am a human who gets back up. I'm starting here even though I'm scared and I have no idea if anyone will want to listen to what I have to say, but I have to start. Resilient is what my therapist calls me. Today she said to me, Sarah, you've got to remember to save yourself before you save the world. Maybe another 200 times of telling myself that, and I'll get that one locked into my head. But it's really a deep part of who I am. I'm a lover, a giver, and a really big dreamer. I want to go after my wildest dreams. I want to succeed and I want everyone to come with me. I love when other people succeed. I delight in cheering them on. But ultimately, my success and my ability to create an abundant life depends on me taking pleasure in my success as well, which means I have to be willing to put myself first. I have to be willing to fall in love with myself. Something I have never dared to do before. But thankfully, I get to just start where I am. In this episode, I will share a little bit about my background and give you an idea of what I hope to create with this podcast vlog situation. I'll be talking a little bit about my life and what I've noticed and learned. I'll be teaching through storytelling mostly. And I'll be sharing, my own vulnerable moments as well as offering tools that I found, they make a huge difference in understanding my own life and my own brain and kind of how that impacts my loved ones and my greater community. So a little bit of a background on me. I like hiding behind this thing, by the way. Anyway, I have a degree in human development from UC Davis, and I am a certified life coach through the Life Coach School, and I also own my own floral design studio, which is where I'm recording from right now. It's just about the only quiet place there is. Some people have to do their podcasting in the closet. I am in my studio, so you might end up hearing the hum of the refrigerator if it decides to kick on while I'm recording this. And when I say all of that out loud, I feel pretty proud. It sounds, impressive. And yet For so many years, I considered myself of mediocre intelligence. Mediocre. That's the word that I would torment myself with. On the nights, when I cried myself to sleep, that's what I was thinking about. My ex-wife is super smart in so many of the ways that I just am not. And I spent so much of our relationship valuing her type of intelligence and devaluing mine. I didn't spend time celebrating and developing, my unique brain. I considered her brain to be the gold standard, and I shamed myself for not having that shiny gold brain. Instead of, tending to and developing the areas that I found weak in myself, I just shuttled everything. I just shuttled those things over to her to take care of. Like, I thought I was being efficient with our resources, delegating strengths and weaknesses so that, it was to our best advantage. Well, guess what happened when we got divorced? I had a lot of shit to learn, and I really needed to have learned it a long time ago. Oh my gosh, my nose is running, you guys. It's so cold in here, but I don't want to turn on the heater because it makes noise. This is where I am. So, when we separated, I was a stay-at-home mom with no career to support myself. I had the less than awesome habit of passing off the hard things. And I was grieving over, losing my 16-year relationship. I was scared and overwhelmed and pretty much empty of hope or confidence that I was going to be okay. I woke up one day and I realized I had given everything I had away to my child, my wife, my friends, my family, my church. And even then, all that I was able to give them was crumbs. I was a shell of my once vibrant self. Like, my spirit was withered and dying. But every day I got up. I didn't know what else to do, so I just started. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I had to get on the road to find out, or I was going to lose the small amount of hope and sanity I had left. So I went back to what I knew. I went back to my job as a retail florist. But after 6 months, I realized that the job that I had in my 20s and early 30s, it wasn't going to work for me in my new circumstances. And so, while it touched and sparked my creativity unlike anything else ever had, it just was too much time away from home. There was no room for financial growth. I felt like I was failing constantly. I was failing my son when I was at work. I was failing work because I was, thinking about my son and trying to get home to him as soon as possible. And ultimately, I was failing myself because I could barely financially support myself. I only had 4 years of spousal support to, figure it out. And so with my 15 years experience of floral design, I opened up my own home-based wedding and events floral design business. I took the leap while I had a small safety net. I figured I had 4 years to see if I could create a business that I loved and that supported my dreams for a well-rounded and balanced life. I love this business. I love the confidence that I've found. I love the pride that came from creating a business when I never thought I could. I loved the opportunity to see what my designs looked like when I made every decision along the way. I loved getting out into my community and making connections. But I was at a wedding show about a year and a half in to my business, and I realized that I don't want floral design to be my forever career. It wasn't feeding me in the way it once did. And my body was getting older and broke down from standing on my feet all day long and hanging garlands from trees and climbing ladders and washing buckets. I was only 37, and I was thinking of all the, older designers that I knew who hobble around and pop ibuprofen to get through the day. So even though I knew that I could have a successful business, that would financially take care of me, the toll on my body and the amount of time I would spend working, it just, wasn't something I was on board for any longer. Every holiday went to flowers instead of my family. For most of our relationship, my poor wife never got Valentine's Day because I was physically and mentally exhausted and probably really freaking cranky. I gave everything I had to my work, and I had nothing left for myself, for her, for us. And it's just too much to continue giving up for the rest of my life. The problem was, I didn't believe that there was anything else that I could do that I would be good at. I got my degree in 2004 and never did anything with it. I didn't believe that I had anything to offer to anyone. I remember looking at the, course catalog and reading through all of the jobs associated with a human development degree, and none of them seemed like the right fit for me because I had shitty beliefs about myself and my capabilities. So at this point, I've gained 50 pounds since my divorce. I've spent more than half of my divorce settlement setting up a business that I didn't want for the long haul. And I had no traction in the financial independence department, and I really still didn't have hope for a better life. About this time, I came across the Life Coach School podcast. Oh man, and I didn't really listen to podcasts, but I came across this one, and I remember being here in my studio last Christmas, making wreaths and garlands and just binging on episode after episode. And it was like all of the questions that I had wrestled with my whole life were being answered. I came to the conclusion that I had quit on myself over and over and over. I talked down to myself, and I indulged in so much confusion for my whole life. And I did not like where that had taken me at all. So I decided for the next 37 years, I would do everything I could to love myself and to push myself to grow into the person that I want to see myself as, and see what kinds of results that got me. And then, when I'm 74, I can look back on the two different methods and decide which one I want to do, live out the last years of my life with. But until then, I'm going all in on myself. So with this new commitment to myself, I asked myself, if you weren't afraid of failure, if you weren't afraid of what other people would think or say, what would you go after? Without a moment's hesitation, my brain supplied to understand what happened in my failed marriage. I wanted to know what I did to contribute, what she did, and what patterns emerged that we couldn't get past, and why they kept escalating. Because I experienced a result that I just never saw coming when we divorced. And I really wanted to get every lesson out of the painful experience that I could. It's like I couldn't change what had happened, but I could learn everything possible from it. I wanted to understand, and I wanted to heal so that I could, move forward and hopefully have a different result next time. I wanted to understand so that maybe I could help others understand and have better relationships with themselves and with their spouses and their children. So I decided to go through life coach certification to really better understand myself and to give myself the opportunity to create a life that I so desperately wanted to love and to be excited about. To be a life coach, I first have to do my own work before I can ever help anyone else. To be a life coach literally requires me to be curious about myself and the choices that I make every single day, to have a growth mindset, to practice patience, grace, and boundaries. It requires me to continually show up for myself so that I can show up for my clients, for my children, for my family, for my church, for my community. I learned how to fuel myself in a way that leaves extra energy instead of in a way that leaves me completely and utterly exhausted and disenchanted with life. And honestly, feeling like a failure as a human being, because that's where I was at. This work by far has been the most impactful in my life. It answers my lifelong question of how do I get myself from desperately wanting to change to actually creating change? I think so many of us feel stuck and need to understand the process of why we are stuck and the process of getting ourselves unstuck. We are in an unprecedented time in history. Our lives have literally been shaken up, turned upside down, and there is no certainty in our future. We have to learn resiliency and give ourselves permission to just start right where we are, no matter where that is, no matter where we've been. We get to start here. We get to question everything. And we get to build a future built from a foundation of self-love. And we get to start over as many times as we need. In the You Get To podcast, I will be discussing many of the issues that I look around and I see my fellow humans struggling with. There are over 7 billion people on this planet. And yet, most of us feel so alone in the way that we think or feel. Truly. Our spirits are withering and dying. I want to start conversations and normalize the human experience so that we can feel less alone and find the courage to break out of the mental prisons that so many of us find ourselves in. So, some topics that you can look forward to are: you get to have a voice, you get to like yourself, and you get to forgive yourself. So in this podcast and in my coaching practice, I focus on the things that we get to do, choose, decide, feel, have. Way too much of our mental energy and time is spent on the things that we can't control, the things we don't have. We argue with reality. And I want to offer that the practice of directing your attention to what you get to have, be, do in your life will get you so much closer to how you really want to be spending your time on this planet. I'm thrilled that we get to be here together in this virtual space. Every episode of You Get To will have a different topic, but everything that I talk about in my podcast and in my practice comes from believing in the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Every human being is deserving of love. I'm going to say that again. Every human being is deserving of love. We must each build from a foundation of self-love and self-respect in order to, ever achieve love and respect in our homes and in our communities and worldwide. I hope that you enjoyed the first episode of You Get To. I know I did. If you have a moment, I would love for you to leave me a review, a like, share, anything. It is the most helpful thing you can do to help me get my podcast out and into the minds and hearts of anyone who needs to just start. See you in episode 2. Bye for now.